I really don't want to do it live.
Can everybody hear me?
Because that'll be the better camera for once it's going.
Which one?
They got a GoPro here to get her actual real.
And then the key is you have to introduce yourself in the beginning because we're going to use this content to explain the rules and the concepts in the background. We're going to cut it up.
Well, if I don't say something, just stop me and ask me to say it.
Okay, it'll be easier if you just remember to introduce
I'm going to try, Adam. You're making me feel really nervous.
All I need is an introduction at the beginning. It's the only difference. It's everything else is rock and roll.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Right on the set.
Let's go big energy on this. Let's go big energy.
Okay. Are we really ready?
The thing is like it only exists for this.
It's hard to know because Adam keeps talking, so I'm not sure where we are.
That's not the live stream. I want you guys to hear it. Okay,
That's right.
This is the live stream. Okay.
Right here. This is the one.
Hello, everyone.
Come on in. Josh, let's get up here. Gail, get in here. Muscle up.
Okay, this is the live stream.
Create the energy or field around you.
Okay, before we start, make sure you have the hashtags and handles that you need to join in the competition. So, hello everyone. My name is Eve. Whoops. My name is Eve Picker. Eve Picker. No, and it's not working.
Actually, you're starting at the last slide, not the first.
Oh, is that what it is? Got it. Yeah, because they're exactly the same. Okay. So, my name is Eve Picker, and I've spent quite a few years in Pittsburgh doing real estate development, projects in hard buildings, in hard places, in difficult neighborhoods that no one else wanted to be in. These are the first lofts that were built in downtown Pittsburgh in a building that had been vacant 15 years at the time and is now happily populated. Another building downtown, a very small building that was built on a tiny vacant lot that's only 16 feet wide, that has now got 3 units and a storefront in it. So over the years, as I worked on these buildings, I learned how to do projects that were really difficult to finance, public-private partnership deals that required help from the Urban Redevelopment Authority and the city and foundations and other entities to make them economically viable. And that's how all of these buildings work. So this particular one is the Break House in the Strip District. It was a vacant warehouse for many years, and I purchased it from the Urban Redevelopment Authority and renovated into some pretty fabulous lofts. The Liberty Bank building in East Liberty had been vacant for at least 15 years. Again, when I bought it, it was really, only the shell was worth saving and is now occupied by many a vibrant startup in Pittsburgh, including the beauty shop. This is what it looked like inside when we started the work. So these buildings, this is another building downtown, which had also been vacant for many years, had a Chinese restaurant on the first floor, and the upper floors had pretty well been abandoned, converted into 10 pretty gorgeous units that are now occupied by residents, and a very nice first floor storefront. And the Werner building in East Liberty, which we've gradually turned around over the last 10 years. This is a slightly old photo that has a waffle shop in it, but now the Livermore resides at the corner. So all of these buildings are really worth saving, not just all buildings, but some lots, and sort of add to the vibrancy of the neighborhood and the city. And that's really what interests me. And so I worked very hard as a developer to work on projects that that I'm just not going to make money on, but are going to really make a positive change in those neighborhoods and in the city. But in the mid-2000s, the bottom fell out of that model. The federal government cut back on CBDG funds. Those are the funds that flow through to the Urban Redevelopment Authority and in turn to developers. So it became very difficult to do projects like this, and I stopped doing real estate projects. This is another building in downtown Pittsburgh, 930 Penn Avenue. That was a vacant warehouse. It has ceviche on the first floor now and very nice units up above it. So what's next? I became really interested in a model that emerged in 2012 as a result of the Jobs Act, which was put forward by the Obama administration. And the Jobs Act now permits people to generally solicit offerings which previously had been just for friends and family. And this means that now you can create a crowdfunding portal online and match up developers with investors and find ways to raise money to do exactly these sorts of projects. So unlike Kickstarter, these crowdfunding portals and Small Change don't give you a t-shirt as a gift. You can become an investor and get real return and become a real partner in the project. So that's what Small Change will do. So I hope eventually it will be a place where anyone can invest in real estate that matters to them, a place where transformational real estate projects can raise funds, and a place where investment return is measured by more than dollars and cents. And we have developed something we're calling the Change Index, which actually measures the change that is more than dollars and cents. And we measure it, we have a formula to do that. And it's the sort of change that all of you are really familiar with. It's really easy to understand. Is that project close to public transit? Is it renovation of a building? Does it fill a previously vacant lot? Does it create jobs in the neighborhood? Is it a neighborhood serving business? Is it, does it have bike racks? Is it close to a bikeway? All of those things count towards the change index number, which will be out of 10. This is the change index for the tiny house, which gets a really pretty fabulous 9.5. So here are 3 examples of projects that we're probably going to go live with. The first is a tiny house in Garfield. We're going to raise around $100,000 in equity to build this tiny house. We're not going to a bank. We're not going to a bank because banks are pretty conservative in the way they lend, and they require an appraisal to understand how much they're willing to lend. We can't get an appraisal on this tiny house. Our appraiser has not been able to find a tiny house on foundations anywhere in Pennsylvania and is not willing to give us an appraisal number. So we need to find an alternative way to raise the money, and we're pretty convinced that we'll be able to sell the house. So it's not about the value of the property, it's also about who is willing to come forward with money to make these projects happen. Another example is this riverfront project in Rochester, Pennsylvania. This is an old brewery, a beautiful old historic building. Kingpin was filmed inside it. It's been vacant for at least 3 decades, and Rochester, which has a very small, I don't know if any of you have been there, but there's a small Main Street district which is pretty well shuttered. I don't think there's much open there at all. They have not had any investment for at least 3 decades. So the developer is planning to renovate this building as mixed use, and people in Rochester are really excited and wanting to help make it happen. Another project will be a tiny house village in Garfield. These are 5 or 6 tiny houses that we plan to build on 3 lots that have been vacant for a very long time that are owned by the Urban Redevelopment Authority. Again, in this instance, we don't know if we can get an appraisal. So here we may very well raise the entire amount of the project to build it. So if you want to know more about that, I'd be happy to talk about it later. But in the meantime, let's talk about how you can get involved. So before a developer gets matched up with an investor, a developer has to have an idea of where they're going to go, what building they're going to build. Is it on a vacant lot? Is it an existing building? Where is their activity that they're interested in? And that's where we think you can get involved. So I am going to hand over to Adam, who's going to explain that.
All right. Woo! Thanks, Steve. Okay, so who cares about a neighborhood in Pittsburgh? Say it out loud. The camera can't hear you.
Larimer.
Larimer. What else?
Allentown.
Allentown.
Keys Rocks.
Keys Rocks.
Highland Park.
Start from Highland Park.
Liberty.
Go East End. Nowhere from the West End. What's that Stowe? There we go.
The Keys Rocks.
Keys
There,
Rocks.
Keys Rock. There we are. It's Darla's coming through with us. Okay. So the greatly understated moment in developers leading areas or communities is having an idea. So I think it's easy when you're someone like you who's looked at pretty much nothing in garbage or really broken moments and kind of pieced it together from the back of her, almost 20 years plus of architecture thinking. But it's really hard for the average developer who's thinking all in bricks and labor hours to get creative, right? It's much easier for them to go build a Chipotle or put a tax facility in, or something that's kind of generic. So the idea is really simple. We're going to wander around the neighborhood for the next, the city, in all 92 neighborhoods for the next 30 days.
Is it bigger than the city though? Can you look at
Be-
Allegheny County?
Anywhere.
So Allegheny County.
Allegheny County.
The Pittsburgh metro region.
That's right, Pittsburgh Metro.
Okay.
That's right. Including both existing buildings, vacant lots, and everything in between. And the idea is really simple. Wherever you show up, take a picture with your phone. Once you've taken that picture, you can either tag someone on things like Twitter or Facebook and we can repost it for you, or you can just deliver it directly via Instagram with one very simple hashtag. # not so small change. And by doing so, your photo will rise to the level of people like software architects and regular architects and CMU and developers taking a look at it and actually judging it. The idea, again, is to highlight as many neighborhoods in the greater Pittsburgh area as you possibly can for opportunities to change. If the pictures don't occur, that doesn't mean the change won't happen, but as we can all imagine, it'll happen much slower. So, examples, examples, examples. This building, for those of you that have already warmed up to this, when you see this building, what could it be?
A deli.
A deli,
A bodega.
a bodega. What else?
Cafe.
Cafe. What about if we're not trying to get fat?
Gym.
Small appliance recycling center.
Hypothetically speaking. The idea is also to not assume everything needs to be either a coffee house or a restaurant, right? In fact, many times the communities need lots of things that have productive utility that they're not getting, right? Highland Park might need a local gardening store or a plant store, right? And the idea is really simple. Think about what you want more than anything else right next to you and pitch it. Because you just simply never know who's going to be looking and reading all the numbers and say, you know what, as it turns out, that actually would be a really smart place for me to do workforce development and do small appliance recycling, because it's right around the corner from Construction Junction and Goodwill and other stuff. When you see this building, which happens to be downtown, a number of stories high with a fully functioning kitchen for the most part in the bottom, what type of restaurant should be here? What do you think?
A salad spinning place.
Okay, chopped salad, salad spinning, right? Could be green, actually get something healthy. What else?
Real breakfast.
Real breakfast.
Real breakfast.
Real breakfast.
Yes. Enough calories so that I'm not anger managing at about 10 a.m. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right at the appropriate time when people actually wake up. What about a kid-friendly place to eat breakfast downtown? Right? What about some place that on the second floor has a place to watch kids, and on the first floor is a restaurant to do it?
Awesome.
Right? The idea is really simple. More people will pay for things, except for everybody assumes it's just what's already been done is what we should do again. But what about a place like this, right off of Larimer Avenue, right? It doesn't necessarily have the spit and polish of the Smithfield Cafe building. What should go here? What other type of stuff can we consider?
Art gallery.
Art gallery, right? Because there's plenty of artists that live within a 2-mile radius, you know, of the crossover between East Liberty, Larimer, Highland Park, Lincoln, Leamington, Homewood. Another great example, right? An opportunity to create commerce as well as recycle products that don't get thrown in the garbage. You know, my original idea here, it happens to be close to Highland Park, was get Free Ride to actually put a recycled bike rental center right there, in addition to giving bikes out to the community for free to play around, because actually a lot of those streets are not well trafficked, especially as you move into Homewood and otherwise, but the way they get safer and more exposed is by having people run around in them. Alright, so just an easy opportunity to see how someone else can make an extension of what they're already doing, right, but have a commercial self-sustaining vision for it. Free Ride already recycles hundreds of bikes a year, but it depends on you going to over by the area where the reuse center is in Construction Junction to find them. And the reality is, as we've seen from the history and success of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, is that selling stuff doesn't always work. So if they have tremendous programming and they have tremendous retail sales, what's the middle ground, right? And the middle ground in this case might be making sure every person in Larimer, in North Point Breeze, in West Homewood, in Highland Park, has the opportunity on the real cheap to rent a bike, because what's the cost of those bikes if we let them sit versus the cost of those bikes if someone's wearing them, right? It's negligible, right? $1 an hour rents you a bike, right? 50 cents an hour rents you a bike. Opens up lots of doors. Here's another example of what was in stories past, a barbershop and salon. Does it have to be a barbershop and salon?
No.
What else could it be?
Artisan butcher shop.
Absolutely right. Right? You know, it's got big windows, it's on a relatively traffic street, right? It certainly could be a barber shop, it could be a combination of things, right? It might be a barbershop and a gallery, right? Take advantage of the front and the windows. It could be a place where you go to play board games, right? It might be something that's an extension of the library system or programming. Or frankly, it could be just a great space like a hardware store where people come to congregate and get a little bit smarter and work a little bit harder. So, the idea is really simple. Go out and explore the 92 neighborhoods or beyond in the greater area. I promise you from a first-hand perspective, it's addictive. You start to stumble upon things that you haven't seen, stuff that could be everything and anything you ever wanted, because the only way we're going to be lucky enough for people like you and others to create the economic investment to build the building or fix the building is if they actually know the building exists, or they know the lot is there, or they see your vision in a way where it makes sense. The example we gave in the very earliest slides on the Smithfield Cafe was something that came from the Food Tasters, which happens to be a local foodie stream, images about restaurants and different artisan goods. Over 100 people commented on what type of restaurateurs or food truck owners should be in the Smithfield Cafe. That building has been vacant for at least a number of years. I don't know if you remember how long, right? But it's at least 3. Yeah, that would be my memory since I've been here. The point is that 100 people had an opinion about what they could do. And there's no faster way to the developer's heart than making it feel like that people actually want your product or your service. So Kit's just going to run you through the judging, but the punchline is get out there, take 3 photos, tag them with not so small change, right? And we'll go from there.
Just 3?
3 or more. 3 or more.
Well, as we say, we designed this specifically to be impactful, but to make it fair, we come up with some standard judging criteria, and we're going to be judging you on, as Eve alluded to, how we can use it, how we can use the existing environs, whether it's a vacant lot, a building, or otherwise, and see how to make it better for both the actual immediate vicinity and the city. How is it going to drive economic activity? Is this your idea? How, in its essence, is it going to be the economic spark? And then, as importantly, what are the considerations for access and mobility? Is it near public transport? Is it walkable? And otherwise. And then, using those 3 criterion, we have some awesome judges. We have Darla, Martha Weil from the Post-Gazette, and
We have John Poland.
John
For
Poland,
Project Reuse.
Project Reuse, and
Project Reuse.
some other developers and artists and such that will be taking a look at this from different lenses and different viewpoints to judge. And so, what do you win if you meet those criteria? Money and fame, and as much of both.
Mostly
probably.
fame.
Mostly fame. So we're going to reward your vision, the idea, and because it's a social contest, how much it's like. So we hope you'll go out and take at least 3 pictures. All of us have different viewpoints. All of us have different passions. We'll see that probably in your photos. We hope to see your favorite neighborhoods. And allow just to dream on this. Don't be constrained by, well, this was that, so it has to be this. If you see a vacant lot and you know your community or city needs something, put it there in your mind. And so I think that other people will rally around that. We need all your submissions by August 19th, 1 second before midnight. This turns into a pumpkin, and we hope that this small change leads to big change. And you can follow us along on our social channels, on the Twitters and the Instagrams, at Our Small Change on Twitter and Instagram, and Figment on Twitter and Instagram. And the democratizing thing of this all is, whether you started on Instagram today or have 1 billion followers, everybody has the same chance of winning using the hashtag #NotSoSmallChange. So we hope you'll enter today.
Yeah, I think we can make the world stop streaming.
Yeah. Stop streaming.
Yeah.